Hello, Psyche community, and welcome to our presentation, Exploring Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Disease Burden. In this webinar, Dr. Purcell and I discuss the patient, humanistic, clinical, and economic burden of PTSD. Learn more about how PTSD is prevalent in the civilian population as well as the military population. Let's look at a few clips from the webinar.
There can really be a major impact on the quality of life. And this is really across all aspects of life. We look at kind of emotional or physical detachment, lack of interest, being less involved with children, that can really impact how one is functioning. But then you look at things like employment, and there are really major impacts on employment. The numbers that we see are about 80% of individuals, both in the civilian sector and in military, and that's both active duty and veterans. There is a high percentage of folks who are unemployed. And then when they become unemployed, this then can also worsen their symptoms. So it's sort of a vicious cycle. The PTSD can lead to an unemployment. The unemployment can then worsen the symptoms. Now, there's also not just unemployment itself, but underemployment or having problems with productivity at work. And we're going to talk more kind of about productivity, but being absent from work, being underproductive, and then having difficulty even getting to work. If someone has a lot of avoidance of, say, public transportation, they may have a hard time getting to and from work. And then this can really exacerbate not only the employment burden, but also social isolation and effects on relationships. We can't forget about the civilian population and the PTSD there, because that actually is where most of the problems are. And if you look at actual dollar costs, everybody altogether, it's estimated that about $232 billion of cost, economic burden, comes from PTSD. But if you break that down between civilians and military, the vast majority of that actually is in the civilian population. And if you look at unemployment specifically and the cost of that, again, about $45 billion, but most of this is in civilians. There's obviously a large impact in military, but you can't forget about the civilians, because that burden is very real and that cost is very real amongst that population.
To watch the entire webinar, please click on the link in the description below. Be sure to register for upcoming webinars and watch other on-demand webinars while you're there as well. Have a great day.